back everyone to building Braaca in Lego, the finale. Let's get straight into what I've got for this update. As you can see, I've started off with adding some rust and detail to the engine kind of hull. I'm not too sure if this is the final look that I want to go for, but I've used that darker orange colour as well as adding some grey detail. I've also added a little bit of the kind of medium nougat colour, as you can see there, so it kind of blends in to add the kind of corrosive like rust layer on the metal. I've tried to add it pretty much everywhere on the dark grey kind of area of the mock. I haven't added it on the hangar or the artillery bay, but I'm not sure if I want to add it there just because I don't want too much detail, and there needed some detail added for the engine, but there doesn't need for other parts. So I've kind of gone with just this splotchy look of adding colors. I'm not too sure if I'm happy with it, but besides that, I've also added the kind of laser coming out of the engine. Now, I do wish the laser was a bit larger, but I don't have any more trans light blue pieces, so did the best I could. I have made it better since the last time I did laser, so I've kind of shaped it down to the point of a 2x2 round brick, but it starts off at a kind of 6x6 kind of square. If you look from this point, you can see I've just kind of made a rounded shape out of square bricks, but like kind of what's the word, sloped it down to smaller bricks. I've also been able to add the other part of the engine ring back on to the build. I've just left it off in the last couple of updates because it's a bit fragile and I keep knocking into it. Besides that, I've also added some detail on the exterior of the engine, and you can see the border there, which I believe I've shown in a previous update, but I'm not super sure. Now, besides adding detail to the hull, I've also added some interior rooms to the back of the artillery bay, which you can see up here, and I'll show you more detail right now. Okay, so the first interior room that I built was kind of a Venator bridge. As you can see, I was a bit worried about parts, so this is probably the worst of the three interior rooms, but it's still got some good detail. The main being the iconic Venator bridge style window, which I'm really happy with how I was able to do. Just uses some simple hinge bricks and some angled slopes, as well as I added just some basic snot walls with the wedge piece that you saw that I got about 200 of in the last video. I've also added tech there, kind of being in charge of the bridge. I've got a bunch of different control panels, which I'm not even sure what sets they're from, but yeah, really happy with the variety of that. Added some crates here to make it look a little bit less plain, and then these control panels, which you saw at the end of last week's update, I want to say, or maybe in a short from a week ago. They're designed from Hyperlight bricks, just modified one. I've made a destroyed one because I ran out of parts. But besides that, it's pretty simple. The only kind of interesting technique is adding a black wall behind it, so it kind of gives the emphasis that it's really kind of floating in the space. But I'll get straight on to the second room. The second interior room is the largest, being the reactor room. Now, some of the techniques I use to achieve this look are the kind of what's it called, the hose pipe piece with a flex tube piece connected with clips to these angled bricks which have tiles on the end. You can kind of see the red Technic pieces used as connectors just under there, and then a dish piece and then a large cone piece. I also added these shield pieces in a octagonal arrangement, so quite a complicated design. Besides that, I've also got some spring shooter bricks on their sides. I think that's what they're called. And then some snot techniques as well as just a simple tiled wall technique with a door And then I've added a black background, kind of good to give that effect that it's floating in the air. Has got a small stand underneath to keep the build upright, but probably my favorite room of the three, and I'm really happy with the amount of detail I was able to add with such a limited parts left. The last and final room is the smallest, but it's probably my favorite because of the amount of detail I was able to add. Now, I started off with these 1x6 vent pieces, or kind of slope pieces that add detail to the right wall, as well as the sticker pieces from the Paz Vizsla vs Moff Gideon set. As I come down, you can see I've got Rex's helmet there, as well as Rex and Ahsoka trying to remove the inhibitor chip. The main technique that I used for this kind of medical chamber is the 1x5 arch piece, as well as the 4x4 curved tile piece, which blend the wall and the machine pretty seamlessly. I've also added stud shooters on top. As you can see, that's one of my favorite techniques to use. But outside of that, it's a relatively small room, only about 16 by 16, and it fits at the end slot of the interior rooms. As you can see, the Venator bridge would go right here, and the reactor room goes right there. So that's how those interior rooms are pretty mobile to move, and I can switch the orientation of them. Now, outside of that, the rest of the build is pretty much complete. The only thing I've got left is this kind of torpedo, kind of artillery, I don't know, stand. I don't really know what to call that. I've just got to add a bit of detail and enable it to hold the torpedoes itself. But once that is complete, the mock is finally done. For the final section of this entire series, I'm going to show you all the minifigures I'm going to include on the mock, starting off with my clone troopers and crosshair. Basically just 16 normal P2 clone troopers and then my custom crosshair. Apologies about the lighting. I've basically got no space left to film because of the mock. Besides that, I've got a few different details. I've got a kind of dead animated P1 Stormtrooper, or add in there as a little Easter egg. I've got Maul in there because I've got the reactor room. I've also got Captain Rex and Ahsoka. I've got partially decapitated, dismembered Cal Kestis, who I just need to find the arms and the legs for, because I've got a place for him on the mock, and a lot of people have asked for me to include him in the build. Besides that, I've also got Cad Bane and his little droid. I can't remember the name of the droid. And finally, I of course have the Bad Batch, the 4 customs that I've made, including Wrecker, Echo, Tech, and a modified Omega, as well as Lego's Hunter minifig. So as you can see, all I need to do is give them weapons and add them to mock. So that'll be the last thing. I'll go through a bit of the kind of mock, but I want to leave majority of the kind of montage to a separate video that won't be included in this finale. Here is the finished project. Now, it's taken me 3 months, or just over 3 months. It's well over 10,000 parts. I haven't spent too much money on this build, so I'm happy with that. I'm not going to go through every little detail in the finale. If you want to see that, I'm going to film a kind of like cinematic video for the entire mock, as I did with my Gorman series. But I just wanted to end off this series by saying thank you to everyone who subscribed or even just watched the videos. I think the channel has grown about 4 times in size since I've started this project, so it took me 2 years to get to 2,000 subscribers, and then it took me another 3 months to get to 8,000, which is what I currently sit at. So thank you everybody for the support on this series, and I can't wait to work on the next project, and I want to hear what you want me to build next. I'm thinking about doing a viewer voted mock for my next big project, so let me know what you want me to build. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next series.